Hi, I'm Flora, and I'm making videos about my healing journey. I spent decades of my life feeling miserable, feeling lonely, sad, angry, depressed. But I'm able to tell you that I have changed all that around. I now feel so much better about myself. I feel self love. I feel happiness, inner peace, balance. And that is something that it's the most amazing accomplishment, or one of the most amazing accomplishments of my life. Considering that very early on in life, some pretty dramatic events happened to me, such as being molested as a child, and then not being able to learn how to deal with, such events, such traumas, only made it harder as I grew older to deal with all the other issues that life threw my way, such as losing my siblings, one of them to cancer, being told that when I was 20 weeks pregnant that my baby wasn't going to survive birth, having had some bad relationships in the romantic department, also having bad relationships at work, at home, just in general, throughout my life, I felt like I was being punched over and over again. And I didn't know how to deal with this. Or actually, I did know. And the way I dealt with it was by being mad at the world, angry, sad at my life, not wanting to get out of my house, spending as much time alone as I could, staying away from people. I associated pain with people. I mean, I spent years not wanting to get out of bed. I I didn't want to face life. I felt like life was too rough, too miserable. So I had tried different things to get out of that state of mind. I went to therapy on and off throughout the years. I read a couple of books on psychology. I watched documentaries on human behavior, on how the brain processes trauma, how the brain works. I watched many shows and read stories about people who have had worse experiences in life than I had, in the hopes that maybe something would finally click and somehow that would help me change. I also psychoanalyzed myself to death, trying to figure me out, trying to see how I could find a way to finally change my thinking. The thing is, none of those things worked. And I now believe that they didn't work for many reasons, but two of them I can tell you are the first one, the fact that I just wasn't ready or willing to change. As much as I wanted to change the way I thought, there were many other areas in my life that I was not willing to change, to make things different for me. And one of the reasons I didn't want to change was because I believed that changing meant me saying that there was something wrong with me. And not just wrong as in how my life was going, but wrong as in literally something wrong with me, who I am. Nobody likes to hear that. I did not want to hear that. So having to commit, having to accept, having to be willing to change was important. Without it, it wouldn't happen. I kept thinking that, I was a good person. I do not wish bad to anyone. And I just didn't understand why the problem was me and why I had to be the one to make the sacrifice, if you like. But at the end of the day, year after year after year of thinking that way, it didn't help me. And what I can tell you is that the world wasn't going to change. People were not going to change. And if I wanted a different life, it came down to me doing it. Me being responsible for myself. And saying, I do have control. I do. I can do something different. So accepting that was the very first step. The second thing I can tell you that is different too in this new process I started was that everything else I had tried doing for healing had been all through a logical point of view, as opposed to an emotional point of view. In all honesty, I just figured, well, I'm very emotional. I'm very sensitive. I cry. I used to cry so easily. And I would get upset very easily. My anxiety would flare up quickly. So I just figure I'm full of emotions. The thing is, all these emotions, I did not really understand them. I did not know them. And that's where my healing was lacking. Because everything else I did has definitely helped. At least it's helped me in this next phase of my life in terms of being able to understand from an objective point of way what is it that I needed to do, or what was it that I needed to do, and trying to put logic into it. That's how my brain works. I'm just the type of person that for me to be able to do something, I need to understand where I'm coming from. I need to understand, well, why is this necessary? How does this work? It's the same process that I truly used when I started learning English. I didn't just memorize words. I tried to use common sense, and I tried to, as many times as I could, as much as I could through learning a new language, to put sense into how everything worked. Well, I did the same thing here with emotions, because that's what the audiobook I was listening to taught me. That's what I was missing. I did not understand how emotions worked, how these emotions had attached themselves to me, and how they really were such and are such a huge part of life, of my everyday living. And so I'm going to be talking to you about my point of view once I went in this new quest of learning about truly how emotions work and what difference they make in my life. So for that, I'm going to start with talking about my understanding of how the negative loop was created in the first place. This is my understanding, by the way. This is my point of view. This is how I see things, and it's helped me. So I'm going to share this with you guys now. The way I see it is, emotions start first by an, an event, an experience. Something happens in our lives. And when this something is so extreme, so unique, it's such a different experience from an everyday life moment. Well, this experience, as soon as we see it through our eyes, as soon as our brain catches this memory, the memory is created right away, and it's created with the feeling, the emotion. Both of them get simultaneously created. So then what happens is, later on in life, as you get to have more experiences and more situations that create the same type of emotion that the first drastic situation in your life happened, that's when the subconscious brings back that original memory that first started this feeling, this emotion. The best way I can explain it is by giving you examples of what I mean by this, how I understand it. So for me, a happy memory, a very a huge memory that made an impact, was when a cousin of mine, when I was little, got married. This wedding was so awesome. I loved it. I had so much fun there. Everybody treated me so special because I was the bride's cousin. And to this day, whenever I go to a wedding, I always remember that wedding of my cousins when I was a kid. It always comes back. It's like the brain saying, or your subconscious saying, oh, you're feeling this right now? Well, there was this other time that you felt that way too. Here, let me remind you. And it just brings it to the forefront of our brain. And the memory comes. The same thing can be said about something negative. So in my case, let's say when I was a child and I was molested, that was the first really raw, extreme, traumatic experience that created all kinds of emotions that came to a very high level, such as loneliness, anger, sadness, low self-esteem. But for me, anger, lots of anger, and loneliness, and sadness. So as life started happening for me, and I started experiencing sometimes not so happy experiences, well, my brain was like, hey, you're feeling this way? We have memories of something else that made you feel that way. Here, let me bring it to you and put it in the forefront. So when I understood that, how anytime some new experience would create a really high, extreme level of emotion, may that be happy or sad, negative, the subconscious, the brain just brings back all that other stuff. And that's how I now understood why I could not stop with my negative loop, why it would like never go away. I spend my life living in this high state of sadness, of depression, of negativity. It was daily. So constantly, my brain, my subconscious was producing all these memories because I was never getting out of that state, of that emotional state. I lived my life in that negativity that my subconscious just kept giving it back. One thing led to another and to another, and it's just, it was eye-opening for me to look at it from that way, to look at my negative loop, because I used to tell myself, stop thinking that way. This is not good. Why do you keep reliving such horrible memories? Stop it. And I guess I just assumed that one day I would wake up and all these memories would be magically gone. Well, it turns out that the fact that I was in a negative emotional state, and it was pretty, the sadness, the depression was so high up there that my body constantly kept reminding me of other events that had been just as bad. That was a great tidbit to learn once I started this new healing journey. The next big thing I learned about emotions is that, at least from my point of view, I see emotions as another communication system that we humans have. And what I mean by this is, unlike speech or writing or body language, where we have to actually take an action to make this happen, emotions are always on. And these emotions, this communication system, is the one that we use to communicate with the universe, with God, with Source, with the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. Not only with all the powers that be, but it's another communication system that we have with people. And the way I came up to this conclusion is because there are two different energies, if you like, or two different languages in with the emotions, the way I look at it. You have negative, or let me restart. You have positive and you have negative. And you can use one or the other to communicate with everything and everyone, right? It's a system of communication that we don't know we're doing, but we're constantly doing. And the way I mean by seeing it from as a positive language and negative language, well, this is how I see it being used. So for example, right, if I go to Guatemala, the country I was born in, I will speak to everyone there in Spanish because that's the language they speak. And that's how I communicate over there. If I'm here in the United States, I mainly speak in English. That's the language I use to communicate. For me to get that answer back, I'll use the language needed depending on who I'm talking to, because I know that some people only speak that one language. Well, emotions are like that, from where the way I see it. You have positive emotions and you have negative emotions. When you're talking in positive emotions, the universe, God, source, again, whatever you want to call it, will answer you back in the same way you're speaking to it. Because unlike speech and unlike writing and unlike body language, emotions are just that, feelings. Happiness is just happiness. Sadness is just sadness. And when you're communicating these emotions to the universe, to God, to source, to people, because it's at a energetic level, you're getting the answer back to yourself, even though maybe you're feeling angry towards somebody else, or you're feeling happy for someone else. It doesn't matter. Because you're the one talking, you're the one who's going to be receiving this back to you. So if you talk emotionally speaking with happiness, that's what you're going to get back. Now for me, I spent my lifetime talking negative, thinking negative, feeling negative. And that's what I was getting back. I was receiving all this negativity. And the way it works with people is, it's funny because we are this energetic beings. And I'm telling you, we just don't understand how energetic we really are, how much energy we produce. And energy flows and it goes out. And what happens is that what I found out is that there are people who are at that energetic level. It could be positive, it could be negative. But there's always going to be out there someone who will receive that energy and will exchange with you, or in this case with me. They were exchanging with me in the same emotional level that I'm producing. And that's why the difficult people were coming to my life. I was attracting them with my own negativity, my own, my own sadness, my own anger. And I am telling you, I've been doing this new process, this new way of looking at things with emotions now for about a year and a half, kind of. And let me tell you, I've changed a lot. I still have a long way to go, but what I have seen, it's proven that this is correct, that the emotions have such impact on our lives. They impact not just our relationships. I mean, the relationship you have within you, that has been drastic for me. But even my relationships at work, I started seeing the changes, and the positivity has brought so much goodness into my life since I decided that, hold on a second, if I look at this as two different ways of, or a way of communication that has two different languages, I want to use the one language that I want to receive, which is joy, happiness, feeling good. And I am receiving this. It's working for me. So understanding emotions was super important for me to be able to go into the work that I needed to do to keep on healing myself. I will be talking to you guys about how I, through meeting the inner child, was able to finally uh, put behind a lot of those childhood memories that plagued me for most of my life. I will be making videos about, finally letting go of the anger, understanding what letting go means, understanding what happiness truly means. Because what I thought was happiness before, it's not what it is now. I have made my life different ever since I decided to start this healing process through working with my emotions, which is really what made the difference in my healing. So I am now going to stop here my video. I wanted to give you this information so when I talk about the exercises, the meditations, the new ways of looking at things that I did to keep on healing, you'll understand where I'm coming from and why it's becoming so easy, for me at least, to be able to look at life so much differently. So if this video resonated with you, if it's helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to hear more about my healing process, about my story, and how I'm changing my life, subscribe to my channel. And if you want to get notifications about my videos, click on the little bell. Until next time though, I wish you all so much self-love, happiness, joy, and inner mental and emotional peace.